Who is Cameron? Cameron's an international speaker, strategist and social change agent who has dedicated his life to supporting the creation of a more just, compassionate and equitable world. For more than 20 years, Cameron has been devoted to amplifying and accelerating the essential work of mission-driven change makers through a combination of incendiary keynotes, transformative immersions and hands-on mentoring. I got through those words okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know what that all means, would you please put your hands together for Cameron Burgess as he comes.
Coffee, water. Good morning. I'm not going to do a song and dance routine. It's just easier to move around with this thing. So I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and their elders past and present. I acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and the contribution they make to the life of this city and this region. And like many Indigenous peoples, and I've spent time with many Indigenous communities around the world, this is a people for whom country is not bound to notions of nationhood, nor to notions of ownership, but to a sense of custodianship. And this is a word that's become less and less relevant and has less and less meaning to us as our world has seemed to become more and more civilized. So it seems also important to acknowledge the custodians of not only this land, but of all lands. And if you believe the hype, of Mars as well relatively soon. So I'd like to acknowledge us. I'd like to acknowledge us and all who'll come after us, providing we exercise our sacred duty and safeguard this land and all that reside upon, above, within, and beneath it. And that's why we're here. So, firstly, I want to say I love this minister. I don't know if she's still here, but that is one of the clearest and most coherent articulations of what innovation actually is that I've heard from a politician. In fact, from anyone. So I'm incredibly grateful that she talked about innovation in the way that she did. Before I say anything, I just wanted to express that. So we're going to do something a little bit different this morning to open. This is not going to be, we'll get to all the other stuff that you're probably expecting me to speak about, like impact investing and all that kind of jazz. But I actually want to start with something a little bit different. I've made a reputation for myself over the last 20 years by being that guy. I'm the guy that will, see a sacred cow and try and figure out how to make a burger out of it. That's pretty much what I've built my business out of. And I've gone about the world over the past couple of decades with this righteous fury about everything that is wrong and everything that we need to do to fix it. And that is still something that I hold within me. I still think that we need to do more, we need to do it faster, we need to stop being so diplomatic, we should stop being so nice, and we should hold not only the world but ourselves to account as well, to a much, much higher standard. But I've also been going through a process over the past couple of months of self-reflection and contemplating not only who I've been in the world over the last 25 years that I've been doing this work, but who I want to be over the next 25 years. 25 years from now, I'm going to be 70. So what's the legacy that I want to start to think about leaving behind? What's the conversation that I want to be in with myself and the world? And so this is what we're going to do. Who's up for an experiment? It's not a big one, it's a little one. Okay, who needs more coffee? Yeah, I definitely need more coffee. Who just wants to take a nap? No? Okay, I do. I'm going to find a quiet corner somewhere and go to sleep. So, close your eyes. Play along. Just play along. Just close your eyes. Close your eyes and open your mind. Not so much your brain falls out, but close your eyes and open your mind. Close your eyes, open your mind, and open your ears. Close your mind. Sorry, close your... Got to get the sequence right. Close your eyes, open your mind, open your ears, and open your heart. And observe as I use this word heart, how you respond. Do you respond with warmth, with humour, with relaxation? Or do you respond with a smirk, with a rolling of the eyes behind closed lids, with a tightening of the lips against the inevitable WTF that arises? Do you find yourself wondering, who is this hippie? Do you find yourself wanting to get up and leave but feeling socially constrained to stay? Do you find yourself wondering, why am I here? That's a pretty good question. Close your eyes, open your mind, open your ears, and open your heart. And for the next few minutes, and just for a few minutes, put your thinking to one side. It'll still be there when you come back, if you want to pick it up, I promise. Close your eyes, open your mind, open your ears, open your heart, and feel. Just feel. Feel the chair beneath you or the ground beneath your feet. Feel the breath in your lungs or your heart in your chest. Feel the air brushing against you, the clothes on your skin. Just stop for a moment and just feel. Now take 5 deep, full breaths. Breathe slowly, deeply, and as you breathe in, with each breath, feel your body relax and your senses heighten. Feel your body relax and your senses heighten. 5, 4, 3, 2. Now with your eyes still closed, just bring attention to your eyes. Bring attention to your eyelids, to the micro muscles around your eyes. Just see if you can feel the muscles around your eyes and see if you can let them relax. Hold your eyes gently closed, just like your lids have fallen down over your eyes with no effort at all. Relax your eyes and notice how with your eyes closed there is absolutely no effort at all in searching or seeking or seeing. When I invite you to open your eyes, not just now, but in a moment, when I invite you to open your eyes, I want you to let the light fall in. Don't seek the eyes of another. Don't search for anything. Don't check your text messages. Just open your eyes now and just let the light come in. Now, you may or may not notice anything different, and that's okay. For me, this is my church. This is a moment where there is no moving away from anything or toward anything. It's a moment of peaceful acceptance, and this is my church. Because from here, I can move with clarity, speed, purpose, and decisiveness. And it may not be like that for you, but I want to invite you over the next couple of days to just try. Just try this on. It takes a couple of minutes. Just see what it's like to start your day or to start a meeting or to start a moment with a moment of clarity. I have less and less interest in the small answers to the big questions, the simple and naive responses to the complex issues, and the overly complex answers to the most easily answerable questions. The well-intentioned, ill-informed, self-perpetuating rhetoric masquerading as meaningful action, the hijacking of compassion by seeming intellect, and the dulling of intellect by seeming compassion. The unintended arrogance and unhelpful humility of those who know less or more, or have lesser or greater capacity than they declare. The whiteness of the world despite our kaleidoscope of skins. The deification of celebrity changemakers and the diametric opposition of our various isms. the abandoning of the tried, tested and true in favour of the new, and the dogmatic adherence to the status quo in the face of better information. The abject foolishness of ideas of control and the abandonment of empathetic, generative and effective action due to pseudo-spiritual notions of the perfection of everything. The addiction to information and the abandonment of being informed. The notion that humans are more or less important than any other species. Mostly I've got less and less interest in how I embody these confusions, inconsistencies and hypocrisies. And what I am interested in is you. Not the seemingly singular you, this seemingly separate you, this limited, finite, ultimately endable you. I'm interested in the collective you, the absolute you, the you without end. I want to know you, and I want you to know me. And if in our knowing of each other we realise that we're one and the same, perhaps then, in fact, perhaps only then, can we come to peace. After all, once we know, not intellectually, but absolutely, uncompromisingly, and viscerally, that who we are is what lies beneath our seeming separation, then, perhaps only then, we might stop doing violence to ourselves. My name's Cameron Burgess. There's many words you could use to describe me, some flattering, some not so much. What I want to start with is what engineers call first principles. I want to start where I started, where we all started, and where I think we actually really need to return to if we're going to survive the unparalleled crises that our species are facing. I'm Cameron, and I'm human. I'm Cameron, I'm a speaker, facilitator, mentor, strategist, entrepreneur, investor, advisor, writer, musician, poet, man, partner, lover, brother, uncle, and son. But before all that, I'm Cameron and I'm human. Now stand up. Pick up your things. You can choose not to play if you like, but no progress ever came from always doing the same thing. Stand up, pick up your things, and move away from those you know and toward those you don't. Move away from what you know and toward what you don't. Move away from the tried and the true and the known and move deliberately in the direction of the unknown. Get up now and find one or two people that you don't know, or not, and introduce yourself to them just like this. Hi, I'm Cameron, insert your name here, don't use mine, and I'm human. That's all. You've got 60 seconds, because if it takes longer than that, you're all saying way too much. When I say I'm Cameron and I'm human, it takes me about 5 seconds. Okay. Sit down. Or not. I've travelled all over the world. For the last 20 years, I've travelled all over the world, speaking at conferences, connecting with politicians, entrepreneurs, academics, and non-profit leaders. I've written strategy and I've raised money for projects of all sizes, from small community projects to multinational corporations. I've visited some of the more uncomfortable parts of the world. I've slept on bare concrete floors, in truck stops, in the back of cars, in the back of conference halls, at airports, on trains, and once or twice even standing up. I've walked through monsoons, I've hitched through the desert, and I even hitched across oceans. I've argued, fought, and hunted with Australia's first people. I've been robbed, I've been drugged, and I've been beaten. I've been invited into the homes of people all over the world. I, who have so much, the poster child of privilege, I've been gifted so much by those who have so little. I've had my assumptions tested and I've seen my theories collapse. I've said and done some truly stupid things and just given myself another chapter for the book. And for over 20 years now, I've been inspired by Buckminster Fuller, who lived in response to his own inquiry of what one man can do. I can say I've definitely done a hell of a lot less than Buckminster Fuller. As I wandered purposefully about the planet like Caine in Kung Fu, I've discovered that the thing that binds us together, even though we don't talk about it all that much, even though we particularly don't talk about it here in Australia or in Queensland or probably somewhere, that's as tough as Logan, is our humanity. And that may be obvious, but it's probably not so obvious when you actually reflect on the state of the world. Everywhere we see the evidence of a species at war with itself. Everywhere we see man's inhumanity to man. And here's the thing, when we get behind closed doors, when we step out of the conference halls and the expos, when we get up close and personal with each other and we stop talking about things like theories of change, new legal forms, impact investing, the future of philanthropy, the role of government in making change, innovation, when we get beyond all of these things, what we're left with is our humanity. We're left with our struggle to be of service, our struggle to balance mission and money, our struggle to be good partners, good friends, good people, our struggle to take care of ourselves when we're so busy taking care of others, our struggle to balance our own very human needs with the needs of those we seek to serve. And quite frankly, that's why we're here. That's why we do what we do. And it's incredibly surprising to me that the thing that we spend the least amount of time talking about is love. The thing that we spend the least of time talking about is love. We don't talk about love. We don't talk about compassion. We don't talk about empathy. We don't talk about how we can be better people as we're trying to make a better world. We're angry, we're judgmental, we're impatient, particularly when we're talking about government and corporations. We talk about scale. We talk about success. We talk about the law, finance, and government, scale, and success. We never define success, but we chase it like a pack of greyhounds chasing a rabbit around a track. Now imagine if for just one day, we gave ourselves permission to be human. For just one day. Imagine if we gave ourselves permission to screw up. Not something we particularly celebrate in Australia. Imagine if we gave ourselves permission to just tell the truth, the unvarnished truth. Imagine if for just one day we gave ourselves, each other, and the world at large permission to be human, gave ourselves, each other, and the world at large the gift of our own humanity. Do you think there may be a little more patience in some areas that require it, and a little more urgency in others? Do you think there may be a little more caution in how we spend our time and money, and a greater appetite for risk in others? Do you think there may possibly be a little more haste with which changes to the tax code, the institution of new legal forms, the creation of investment incentives and innovation funds, as well as good works are done? Do you think there may be a little less politicisation of change, a little less debating on the metrics of change, and just a whole lot more doing of it? And to everybody else in the hall, I have the mic, so I can just get louder and louder, or you can have your conversations a little more quietly. How would the work that we're doing, the work that brings us together today, how would that be different if we put ourselves forward as humans first? Frankly, I think it's the fundamental consideration. I'm going to move from the hippie into what you actually probably imagined I was here to talk about. It's the fundamental consideration, the implications of it as something that Minister Enoch and the Department of Science, Information Technology and Innovation actually have a responsibility to consider. Innovation means being creative. Innovation means taking risks. Innovation means making mistakes. Innovation means failure. Innovation demands an unwillingness to accept the status quo and a relentless demand for improvement. And let's be clear, innovation and commercialization are not two sides of the same coin. Creativity and innovation are. Commercialization is an endpoint, not the endpoint of innovation. Commercialization is not the point. Change is. Improvement is. The end goal of innovation is not profit. The end goal of innovation is better. Someone much wiser than me once said that today's heresy is tomorrow's orthodoxy, and when we're talking about innovation, that seems incredibly important to remember. Today's heresy is tomorrow's orthodoxy. I live in San Francisco. I've been living there for the past 4 years. And it's considered to be one of the most innovative cities in the world. In fact, it probably has the highest density of compassionate, intelligent, wealthy, politically active, socially minded people of anywhere that I've ever been. It's a mecca for people like us because it seems like people in San Francisco just get it. But do you know why so many innovations come out of the Bay Area? There's a number of factors, and there's one that I believe is more important than any other. It's not only because there's so many smart people there, although I'm sure that helps, but there's smart people everywhere. I'm in a room full of them today. It's not just because there's so much money there, although that helps as well. There's a lot of money in San Francisco, but Logan is the 5th largest city in Australia. I don't know what its GDP is, I don't know how big the budget is, but I'm sure that there's no shortage of cash floating around here as well. It's not because of the quality of education, although Berkeley and Stanford University are world-class universities. But Australia's universities are consistently ranked amongst the highest in the world as well, so it can't just be that. Culture and community are certainly significant contributors to the creativity of the Bay Area. It's where Burning Man started, the hippie movement, the free speech movement, radical student activism, the Black Panthers. Esalen in Big Sur was the birthplace of the human potential movement. There's a lot of pretty amazing stuff going on in San Francisco. But Logan's one of the most multicultural cities in the country. And from what I understand, there's a relatively strong sense of community here too. So we may not have all that, but we have the seeds of it. With the exception of one significant element from what I see, and again, I travel all over the world talking in different cities, Logan has all of the attributes but one: to become a global innovation hub, to become a globally relevant force for good in the area of social innovation. But this is the kicker, and this is where government and industry have to play their part. The most important thing that makes San Francisco and the Bay Area a global hub of innovation is the billions of dollars and the hundreds of millions of hours a year after year after year, that get flushed down the toilet making mistakes. Permission to be human means the permission to make mistakes. Accelerating the pace of innovation means accelerating the pace of screwing up. So my challenge to the minister and to all politicians everywhere is to look at how they can institute a tax. In Logan, it would be appropriate, given that it seems to have more pokies than any other city in Australia, for it to be a pokey tax, and to launch an innovation fund. A true innovation fund, not one that is connected to commercialization outcomes, but one that fuels our capacity to make mistakes. In the absence of a thriving venture capital ecosystem, the government has a responsibility to fund innovation. In America, in cities like San Francisco, it comes from venture capitalists. It's just the price of doing business. They expect 1% of their investments to net a return. The rest fail. And they need to fund it in a way that's about purposefully and powerfully failing forward towards success. As I said, it can't just be about commercialisation outcomes. And not just here, but everywhere throughout Australia, we've got to eliminate the arbitrary nature of grant making to non-profits. Grants that can only go to non-profits are stupid. They are willfully stupid. If what we're interested in is better, if what we're interested in is improving the state of the world, then we need to put the money where it will do the most good. And that's not saying that non-profits don't do good. Like, don't get me wrong, that is not the banner I'm waving. Non-profits do incredibly important work. But they are not the arbiters of good. And in many cases, they don't even have the bandwidth to be truly innovative because they are so busy just taking care of the day-to-day. Most importantly, and I see this all the time, we need to stop demanding that the only way that our best and brightest can rise to their highest potential is to take their talent, their inspiration, and their capacity to make a real difference in the world, leave behind friends, family, and community, and move to somewhere else. It is the 21st century. We could create a field of tall poppies. We could fix the fucking NBN. That'd be a really good start. And as Minister Enoch said, and I agree, we need to make innovation not a ministry. Innovation cannot be subject to politicisation. Innovation needs to be a rallying cry at the core of our political, economic, and social agenda, so that when we run out of things to dig, suck, and blow out of the ground, our young people, 50% of the country now is under the age of 30, that when we run out of things to dig, suck, and blow out of the ground, our young people actually have a future to look forward to. Alternatively, if you don't like that scenario, we can just continue down the path of economic rationalism. We could sell Australia to the state of California. We could let Elon Musk build the world's biggest world-powering solar array in the middle of the desert, turn Pine Gap into a launch station for SpaceX, and build us a hyperloop so that we can get off fossil fuels. But, that might seem too extreme. So maybe we'll just start small and do something about daylight savings. So moving on, we need to make peace with failure. We need to celebrate it. One of my close friends and colleagues in San Francisco is an amazing woman. She has a PhD in quantum computing. Don't even necessarily know entirely what she does. And she just closed down her AI startup, an artificial intelligence startup. She raised money against the thesis of computationally modelling societies. She believed that large-scale risk events were not only observable, they were predictable. And she was using a mix of quantum computing, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and big data in order to predict with an 80% accuracy large-scale risk events to humans. And she failed. She couldn't commercialise fast enough. Her investors did not have the appetite to invest more, and she has literally just shut down her company. And already, she has new investors lining up, ready to pump money into the next thing, whatever the next thing might be. We have a very, very low appetite for failure in this country. And I think it's because we've sacrificed our humanity on the altar of our intellect, and also in our belief in our own inviolability. We like to think we're tough. And we are, granted. But I remember, and I don't know how many people remember, certainly the older ones amongst us will, Bob Hawke being interviewed on TV and crying. Does anyone remember that? A few people? The response to that was that he was called out as unfit to lead. 20 years later, Brené Brown pops up on YouTube talking about vulnerability, and we're all exhorted to be vulnerable, we're all exhorted to be far more human, but not if you're a politician, not if you're a leader in business, in fact, not if you have any power and influence at all. It is not okay. And frankly, events like this is where I bite the hand that feeds. As much as they're part of the solution, they can also be part of the problem. And it goes something like this. Here is Cameron. Cameron is awesome. Read his bio, it says he's awesome. Go to his website also says he's awesome, and so do his clients. Look at the photos are awesome. The case studies, they're awesome too. Consider and be awed by their awesomeness. Come and be in the presence of their awesome, and perhaps some of that awesomeness will be yours. There are many awesome people speaking. Here's the list. Want to come? And it's true, I am pretty awesome. And all the other speakers today are awesome as well. But ultimately, the only difference between you and me is that I've got the mic. And here's the truth. This is the unvarnished, unspeakable, unknowable truth. I'm human. I have failed more than I've succeeded. I have lost millions more than I have made. I've had business partnerships go disastrously wrong and get dragged through the courts. I've had personal ones go pretty much the same way, although I'm sure I'm the only person in the room that's ever had a personal relationship go bad. I've lost more friends than I've made. I have started companies and I've driven them into the ground. I've made some very, very bad investments. I've felt sorry for myself, I've felt depressed, and I've felt like ending it more than once. I've broken my word, I've probably broken the law, I've definitely broken hearts. I'm human, and you are too. And that is the first principle of this work. The first principle that I believe we need to return to every day to be grounded in our humanity and to act from our humanity. We need to get up in the morning, stand in the mirror, and remind ourselves of who we are. I am Cameron, and I am human. And this is where it all begins. So, I haven't been keeping a time check. Has anyone been keeping a time check on how much time I actually have left? Okay, now I know. So, we've got about 20, 45, 105, 15 minutes left. That's right, isn't it? You don't know. I've got all day, so I'm just going to get started, and someone's going to throw me off the stage in a minute. So what I want to do now in the next 15 minutes that I have has been confirmed. I have 15 minutes, right, okay. Clock's running. So I'm going to take you through the process that I take my clients through. This is the process that I've used with clients like the School for Social Entrepreneurs. I've worked in partnership with USAID, done this with non-profits in Silicon Valley and startups in Silicon Valley. It's basically exactly the same process. It doesn't change because it's about inquiry and not discovery. This is the process that I'm taking people through in my program, Makeshift Happen, in 3 weeks in Brisbane. Shameless self-promotion. And really what this is about asking you the right questions in the right sequence so that you can get your own answers and you can build upon them. I don't believe that changing your project, changing the success of your project needs to take months. I don't think it needs to cost you tens of thousands of dollars. I firmly believe that you can do it in a day. If you ask yourself the right questions and you get good quality answers, and you ask the right questions in the right sequence, the answers to the following questions begin to become self-evident. So if you know anything about behavior change or about solving problems, right, you don't try and solve a problem at the level of thinking that created it. The only reason that I have a business is because we're not taught how to think through things in a rational sequence when it comes to this kind of work. So This is what we're going to do now. I'm going to take you through a day-long process in 15 minutes. So, these are the questions that we ask, and this is the sequence. Values, vision, culture, strategy, structure, governance, operations, communications, and sales. Some of the speakers who are speaking during the course of the day will be touching on elements of this. And this is a very, very logical sequence. When you're working in technology, one of the things that people talk about is, or the process is requirements gathering. What are the requirements? What is it that you're trying to do? And so everything is a requirement. Everything. If you want to be home at 3 o'clock to meet your kids when they get home from school, that's a requirement. If you want to go to Bali for 3 months of the year just because you can, that's a requirement. If one partner has 80 hours a week to spend on a project and another one only has 20 hours a week to spend on a project, and somehow they need to figure out how value created and reward is going to be equitable, that's a requirement. In my world, everything is a requirement. So values is about who am I, and our vision, who am I, as an individual. Vision, our vision for a better world. You've probably all read this already, so I'm just going to skip through. It's going to take too long. So, the place to improve the world is first in one's own heart, head, and hands, and then work outward from there. Values asks the question, who am I? If you haven't explicitly elicited your values, you don't know who you are in the context of a business. If you haven't explicitly elicited your values, you do not know who you are in the context of a business. Again, I'm the only person in the room who's ever had a personal relationship go disastrously wrong. And my observation is that it's never because of the explicit agreements, it's because of the implicit ones. What you value matters. It matters more than anything else that you do. Because I can make anybody here a millionaire. I can make any project here highly successful. I can do it all in a vacuum. I can tell you what to go and do, and I can guarantee you that most of you won't do it. Not because it wouldn't be smart, but because any professional consultant knows that you ask 100 questions before you answer one. I need to know who you are. I need to know what you value if I'm actually going to be in service to you, creating something that is in service to you, as well as in service to the people that you're trying to serve. We are very, very good at martyring ourselves to our own causes, and it's time for that shit to stop. So, write your values down, group them, sequence them. You have to know when push comes to shove, does love matter more than freedom to you? You have to know. So vision asks the question, what is our vision for a better world? The reason why I spend, when I'm running an immersion with a client over a 1 or 2 day, if it's over 2 days, there's a lot to cover, right? 8 things. Like this is a 2-day process that tears apart their venture and puts it back together again and gets it on rails to success. We may spend 3/4 of the first day just talking about values and vision. That's how important it is. Dream big, be specific. Don't think about how. You'll get to the how. Make it memorable. If you have a project, your project or a project with many people, and you can't clearly articulate what your vision is and have everybody on your team saying exactly the same thing, you do not know what your vision is. Neither does your team and neither do your stakeholders. And it's only for you. You can put it on t-shirts if you want, you can take out billboards if you want, that's fine. This is not a marketing statement. The purpose of this is not for you to go, hey world, this is who we are. The purpose of this is so that when you are trying to solve problems within your business, and you might be all the way down the end of the line in operations, buried in hell, dealing with some shitty database that doesn't work the way that it should, and you're thinking of tearing it out and putting something new in, you look up at vision as your North Star and you say that is what guides us. That is what guides absolutely every single decision that we make every single moment of the day. This is not hippie, woo-woo bullshit. This is what massive corporations, successful corporations all over the world do. You have to know your values, or you have no business trying to have a partnership conversation with someone, and you have to know your vision, otherwise you cannot achieve it. You cannot hit a target that you cannot see. We've just launched, my business partner and I have just launched a new technology company. We spent 2 days on values and vision. This is a guy I've known for 20 years. He's one of my dearest friends. He may even be here today, I'm not entirely sure. And as well as we know each other, there were things that came out during the course of our conversation that neither of us had anticipated. We now have a company that serves us, and our vision statement is that Ecology will be the world's largest global community, facilitating the effective flow of world positive capital. That may mean nothing to you. That's okay. That is what a carefully crafted North Star looks like for a company. Culture asks the question, what is the space we want to hold for our stakeholders? Culture eats strategy's lunch. So who do you need to join you on your mission? And this should be a balance of people that you know and trust and people that you actually need. When I'm working with leadership teams, these 4 questions, contribution, compensation, culture, and control, are the core of getting leadership teams to function effectively. Contribution, what am I willing to give to this? Time, money, blood, sweat, and tears, first, second, third born, car, fridge, whatever. Compensation, what do you want to get? I don't care. I don't care what you want to get. Just tell me. Do you want $1 million? Do you want to be on Oprah? Do you want billboards with your face on it down the highway? Like, it doesn't matter to me, but you need to know what you want. Compensation is not about money. Compensation is about getting your needs met. Some people need money, some people don't. I have clients that I'm consulting with right now who have an inequitable split in how they're getting paid because they are compensating themselves differently but equitably in a way that they are comfortable with because they've had this conversation. Culture. What do you want to feel and experience? What do you stand for? What are your values in your team and with your stakeholders? And control. How are you going to ensure that these things happen? Strategy is obvious. People hire me as a strategist and I wind up doing all this other stuff. The problem with strategy is that everybody who thinks that they can think thinks that they can strategize. In this world that we're talking about making social change, there are so many influences upon our work that it's actually impossible to plan. It's impossible to plan 5 years out. If you have a 5-year documented plan, that's great. It'll make a really great doorstop. Your strategy should look at the next 12 months. You should know where you're going. You have to have a trajectory, obviously. Like, this is not about being myopic and saying we're only thinking about the next 12 months. You must have a trajectory, but it should be broad. Your strategy should only be 3 or 4 things that you're going to do over the next 12 months, things that you know that you can execute on. And if you don't account for your resources, it's not a strategy, it's a fantasy. If you cannot execute on your strategy, you're dreaming. So I also get called in because of this mess, because of structure. So you don't want to be a non-profit. You don't want to be a social enterprise. You don't want to be a corporation. You don't want to be any of these things. These things are an outcome of your strategy. Your strategy determines your legal form. If you've already decided your form before you've done anything else, you are lost. Your strategy will tell you what kind of legal structure you need to have. So if you've already answered the question and you haven't done these other things, put the question to one side, go back, do these other things, and come back to the question of structure. You can run a for-profit company and not make any profit. You can run a non-profit and have billions of dollars in operational profit. Governance is something that most people don't understand, and in this world, my belief is that they screw it up because of their philosophies. So governance is about answering the question, how do we ensure we function cohesively? In my view, governance structures are responsive to the maturity of the organisation and the maturity of a team. If you want to move fast and you have decided for some inconceivable reason that consensus decision-making in a team of 12 is smart, you are not going to move fast. So you want to think about the evolution of your organisation over time and create structures that will permit your governance structure to evolve over time. I have been a crisis CEO in more social innovation and social good companies than I care to remember. And one of the first things that I usually seem to wind up doing is destroying their philosophical governance structure and immediately instituting a strict hierarchy. Not because I think it is the most functional or collaborative governance form, but because when you are failing, someone has to make decisions. The focus should always be on how does your governance structure support your effectiveness. Operations asks the question of how do we get things done day by day, and so you're asking the question about what is your operating system. Communications asks the question, what is our story and how do we tell it? And if you believe that your do-gooding is what makes you unique, you're wrong. Because if you solve the problem you set yourself out to solve, you don't have a business anymore. There is an ever-narrowing window of relevance for organisations that brand themselves and market themselves according to their social good. And sales, how do you optimise revenues? I love this quote. Everyone lives by selling something. I got taught there are only two types of people in the world, salespeople and those who believe they aren't. So, in closing, I want to just come back to where we started and invite us to a new conversation. Find out more about the people who are here today before you find out about their organisations. When you approach someone at their stand or somebody comes up to you, shake their hand, ask their name, ask them what sets them on fire. Ask them about their favourite restaurant or a book that they read recently. Do they have kids? Talk to each other like humans and then let whatever transactions there may be to take place come after that. In sales speak, it's called building rapport. I think in our world it's just called being human. Because if the hundreds of millions of people around the world who are powering tens of millions of organisations and deploying more than $1 trillion a year towards solving our most pressing social, environmental and economic challenges are successful in their missions, or even if they're not, and probably more importantly if they're not, that's all we're going to have left, is our humanity. On the walls of the oracle at the Temple of Apollo in Delphi are inscribed two words that more than any others should inspire, guide and inform us as we continue on this journey that we're on. Know thyself. After all, if we do nothing more than come to a deeper appreciation of who we are, if we can begin to see ourselves more fully in each other, if by our very way of moving in the world we can demonstrate to those around us the relative rightness of a way of being that takes all life as sacred, surely that, above all else, is what we were exhorted to when Gandhi exhorted us to be the change. So as you continue down this path, not just today, but in the days, weeks, months and years and lifetimes, if you believe that follow, I want you to remember the words of the beloved 13th century Sufi mystic Rumi, who said, forget safety, live where you fear to live, and be notorious. Thank you.